English Phonology Basics, a TKT teacher training module.
Hello, future teachers. Welcome back to the Tower Languages TKT Academy. I'm glad you're here and ready to continue improving your teaching skills. In today's lesson, we're going to explore one of the key topics from Cambridge TKT Module 1, Unit 3 Phonology. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand the essential concepts, see practical classroom examples, become a more confident English teacher, and be better prepared for the TKT exam. So, let's get started. Why is today's topic so important? Because understanding phonology is the bridge between students knowing a word on paper and actually being understood in real life. It gives you the exact tools to diagnose and fix pronunciation issues in real classroom practice, rather than just guessing. Here is our agenda for today's explainer. First, what is phonology? Second, understanding phonemes. Third, decoding phonemic symbols. Fourth, phonology in the classroom. Fifth, key takeaways. And finally, reflection and next steps.
Section 1. What is phonology?
So, the official TKTT definition tells us that phonology is the study of the sound features used in a language to communicate meaning. Now, I want you to really zero in on those last two words, communicate meaning. You see, we're not just talking about making random sounds or trying to force students to sound exactly like a native speaker. That is definitely not the goal. We're talking about how specific sounds carry actual weight, how a tiny shift in sound can completely rewrite the message a listener receives. It's literally the difference between a student just speaking to be heard and speaking to actually be understood.
This visual brilliantly captures just how broad phonology really is. It rests on four main pillars of the English sound system. First, you've got phonemes, which are the individual sounds. Then there's word stress, which is how we emphasize specific syllables. Next is sentence stress, which shapes the rhythm and connected speech of a whole phrase. And finally, intonation, the meaningful tune or melody of our voice. Now, while phonology covers all of these amazing features, our laser focus for this explainer is entirely on that very first pillar on the left, phonemes. Because, well, we have to understand the absolute smallest building blocks before we can build the whole house. We'll definitely dive into stress and intonation in later modules, but right now we are isolating the most foundational element.
Section 2, understanding phonemes. Okay, so what exactly is a phoneme? It's defined as the smallest unit of sound that makes a difference to meaning. There's that word again, meaning. In English, if you swap out just one tiny phoneme, you don't just get a word spoken with a funny accent. You often get a completely different word altogether. The big takeaway here is that a phoneme isn't just a physical vibration in the air, it has semantic power. It is the absolute smallest piece of audio that can flip a word from one definition to another in the listener's brain. When you truly grasp this, it completely transforms how you hear and correct your students' errors in the classroom. Let's look at a really practical example to make this concrete. Consider these minimal pairs. By the way, a minimal pair is just two words that are distinguished by only one single phoneme. Take the word so. If we take out the s phoneme and replace it with the sh phoneme, so transforms instantly into show. The exact same thing happens if you turn sock into shock or soar into shore. This perfectly illustrates that the s sound and the sh sound carry distinct meaning in English. Because swapping them changes the definition, they are officially recognized as two separate phonemes. It's such a small mechanical change in the mouth, but it creates a massive change in vocabulary. Now let's flip the script and look at this from the learner's perspective, specifically thinking about L1 or first language interference. Different languages rely on completely different sets of sounds. A sound distinction that is absolutely critical in English might not even exist in your student's native language. For instance, as our source material points out, in Cantonese, a speaker can often use either the sa or sh sound interchangeably without changing the meaning of the word at all. To a Cantonese speaker, those aren't two separate phonemes. They're just variations of the same sound. Imagine how confusing it is for a Cantonese-speaking learner to discover that in English, this tiny mouth movement they've never had to think about before is suddenly the difference between asking for a sock and getting a shock. This is exactly why understanding phonology makes you a better teacher. You learn to anticipate these precise linguistic hurdles long before they frustrate your students. Section 3. Decoding phonemic symbols. Let's face it, English spelling is notoriously unreliable. The letters we write on a page just do not map perfectly to the sounds actually coming out of our mouths. Take the written letter A. In the word hat, it makes the eh phoneme. But in the word made, it makes the entirely different A sound. And then in the word usually, it shrinks down to the very quick, relaxed sound. If you're an English learner, looking at the letter A essentially tells you nothing about how to actually pronounce the word. Because of this chaos, we need a completely separate system to show exactly how words sound, completely free from the trickery of English spelling. And this script is an absolute lifesaver for both teachers planning lessons and students trying to study independently.
Enter the phonemic chart. Think of this as a set of symbols, where every single symbol represents one and only one specific phoneme. Dictionaries use these phonemic transcriptions to guide learners to the exact right pronunciation. Whenever you look up a word, you'll see these symbols written between forward slashes. So while the letters of the English alphabet might lie to you, the phonemic script never does. It's a precise, dependable map of a word's sound. Now, we'll be analyzing specific vowels, diphthongs, and consonants in a future explainer. But for today, the main thing to grasp is just what this chart is and why it's such a vital tool for bypassing the absolute unreliability of English spelling. Section 4. Phonology in the classroom. Okay, let's talk about the core principles for the phonology classroom pulled directly from our module text. First up, embrace global English. English is a global language now, which means learners are going to encounter diverse accents. As a teacher, your priority should be mutual comprehension, making sure your students can be understood and can understand others rather than forcing them to mimic a perfect native accent. Second, remember this golden rule: input before output. Learners need lots of practice just hearing and recognizing specific sound features long before they're expected to produce them themselves. Give their ears time to adjust before demanding their mouths follow suit. Third, maintain a targeted focus. You really don't have to teach every single sound. Figure out which phonemes are causing friction for your specific learners due to their native language, and isolate those. And finally, regular integration. Please don't just save pronunciation for a special Friday afternoon lesson. Embed it organically into your daily teaching, gently correcting mistakes on the fly while you teach new vocabulary. So when it comes to actually bringing phonemic symbols into your class, you can use a gradual 3-step approach. Step 1 is the wall display. Simply keeping a phonemic chart visible on the classroom wall is incredibly powerful. You can literally just point to it to direct a learner's attention to a specific sound during correction, and you don't even need to formally teach them all the symbols right away. Step 2 is gradual introduction. If you do decide to teach the symbols, take it slow, just a few at a time. Whatever you do, do not overwhelm your learners by dropping all 44 symbols on their desks on the very first day. Teach the ones that are causing them the most trouble first. Step 3 is dictionary independence. For older learners, mastering these symbols is like giving them a superpower. It allows them to use dictionaries with total confidence to figure out pronunciations all on their own. Just keep in mind that very young learners, like 5-year-olds, probably don't need to learn these symbols at all. But regardless of what you decide to teach your students, the mandate for you is crystal clear. You, the teacher, must master the phonemic script so you can prep lessons and use dictionaries with absolute confidence. Section 5. Key takeaways. All right, let's wrap this up with your key takeaways for today. First, phonology studies the sound features that communicate meaning. Second, phonemes are the smallest sounds that change a word's meaning. And third, phonemic symbols are practical tools to guide correct pronunciation despite tricky spelling.
Section 6. Reflection and next steps.
Think about the last lesson you taught. How could today's topic improve your teaching practice? Congratulations! You have just completed another important TKT lesson. Remember that passing the TKT exam is not about memorizing definitions. It's about understanding how teaching works in real classrooms and becoming a better English teacher. Now it's time to put today's lesson into practice. Visit Tower Languages and continue your learning with resources designed especially for English teachers. There you'll find lesson summaries, downloadable teaching resources, exam-style practice, and more. The link is in the description below. In the next lesson, we will take a close look at phonology by breaking down English sounds, stress, and connected speech. Remember, great teachers are made one lesson at a time. See you in the next lesson.